welcome back to my channel. I don't know whether this is going to be ending up on the internet or not, but I think I just kind of want to talk about this and my experience, because I think I've seen a couple of videos just that have been posted in the last sort of 24 hours or something, and I think sometimes just seeing someone's state of mind at that time, you can feel like you've gone through something similar, and that's kind of, I want to try and make as many silver linings as I can out of this situation that I'm going through recently. So I don't really know how many of the logistics I want to go into. Basically, something what I would consider crap happened on Friday the 13th, and it's caused a lot of repercussions for me. It was something that I didn't really have in entirety a great deal of control over. It wasn't something that I planned, it wasn't something I premeditated, and I feel like the situation that was what it was has caused a lot of repercussions in my life that I don't feel were necessary or fair, or even justified in any way. Obviously, we live in a planet that is not perfect, and you know, I do believe in things like karma. I do believe in everything happens for a reason. I do believe in things like, you know, at the end it will work out, and obviously it doesn't. I'm not saying like that's always the rule, but it's a nice idea to have. But it's just, I've seen a couple of videos, like for example, I saw this guy who got expelled from his university campus for like asking women to participate in his like videos for YouTube and stuff. Like, expelling someone, to me, for asking a few people whether they want to be in his YouTube video in a university campus, it seems ridiculous to me. Like, you know, and I'm not in charge of higher powers, and I don't know how, you know, the universe kind of moderates people and puts them where they're supposed to be and takes them away from there they're not supposed to be and stuff like that. But I feel like on a humanitarian level and a human level, there's just like a lot to be said for the human experience when things go away that is not just to you, and you know, if you could see you from the outside perspective, you'd see how unjust it is. And you know, it really is a shitter when things are unfair, especially when it's just something you have to put up with. And also when your voice gets taken away for something that is important, because I feel like this is part of the reason why I'm making this video. Like, this guy that got expelled has made a video about his experience, and that's then validated me and probably many other people about this same thing. Like, I feel like we're genuinely, after COVID especially, in a place where the world is literally, I feel like, a bit lost, and you know, there are many systems that work on a very one-size-fits-all basis, and it means then that people that have either specific ideas and beliefs and are leaders, or they make YouTube videos, like this guy that's got expelled, he was, by the way, accused of harassment, and that was the grounds on which he was expelled, and also potentially getting charges pressed by the police. That was seen as harassment, and he's shown videos of how he approaches women, and to me it's not harassment. Harassment is following someone home and trying to continuously ask them for romantic affairs or whatever when you're not, when they're consistently being rejected. That's harassment. The world, I feel, is so afraid to speak up sometimes, especially, I don't think everyone is everyone's got a voice and it's important, but to be fair, yeah, I feel like the world in general is extremely, people in the world are extremely persecuted for stepping outside of certain boxes that have made sense in the past, and what I think is as well that people, I really don't want to get into things like scapegoating now, because it is very much a scapegoating situation in my eyes sometimes. Especially, I think systems are broken. This is what I just want to preface here, from what I've seen in the last week as well. Systems are so broken. They generally, and in some ways, serve society, and they have certain rules which really make a lot of sense. Things like not allowing women to be raped and stuff, which, by the way, the legislation only came in for that in like the 1980s or something. So before that, husbands were allowed to rape their wives. Sorry if that's a bit graphic, but things like that, and the suffragettes. You know, history was made, especially in recent times, where things were put in place to create the society that we've got at the moment. But it's far from perfect, and it's far from good enough, especially for someone like my generation, who I believe I'm between Gen Z and Gen Y. It's like millennial. The boomer generation, we've outgrown that. In my eyes, we are not, you know, we're different. We're more developed creatures, you know. And you've got bloody Gen Alpha and Gen X and whatever the hell now, you know. And they're only more developed and more technologically savvy and advanced and everything. And you know, unfortunately, the stuff that did work for the boomers is outgrown, unfortunately. And people do need to be stepping out and speaking up about things that need to change, because especially from what I've seen culturally and stuff like that, beliefs and understandings of people's normative behaviours and their practices and their beliefs and their physiology is really underspoken about, especially in boomer generation. There's so many myths and harmful belief systems and things like that really repress parts of society. And I'm not saying that this will ever change long term, but I do think that people can step up and make changes. For example, like Kim Kardashian's made changes to the legal system. She's really, like, she's done her like law degree, and she's like got a massive part of healing the justice system, because she's clearly been drawn to seeing that. And you know, and I know my channel is nowhere near big, but I feel like even if someone hears this and it gives them just a bit of joy to watch, but even for me at least, it's a bit of clarity for myself of just how underdeveloped, how the world outgrows itself every day, basically. And people need to not be afraid to make changes where changes are made, and to, in everyday life, stand up for themselves and stand up for their rights. And I'm very much a person that's freedom of speech based. I'm very much, you know, and I think, and the issue to me, and it's quite a clear issue, and I'm not going to gaslight myself about it, is that, you know, the world, everyone has their instincts, their human instincts. Before the internet, before mass bloody coercion and mass control of areas of the world, and I'm sure these things come back around, and I'm sure whatever, but I definitely believe that like people need to speak out and speak up for themselves, because from anything I've learned from the mental health system is that I've had experience with mental health, so I know that my internal belief systems and my internal instincts were always right. It was the world repressing them, and my trauma experiences repressing them, feeling like I couldn't talk about my experiences, so I needed to have lots of therapy and medications to make me able to express what happened, so I could process that and improve my mental well-being. This was 10 years ago also, by the way, but on a larger scale, it's so important to speak up and speak out about your beliefs and about your preferences, because the world isn't going to give it to you on a plate necessarily, and God only knows when expressed and when communicated. The world can't read your mind, people can't read your mind, and when you don't speak up for yourself, that situation, it may not be given to you. There's a chance, but there's a hell of a lot of a chance. And it sounds like such a outdated concept, again, to just be like, you know, if you don't try, you don't succeed. But it's not about trying hard. I definitely believe in I attract, I don't chase. I don't chase, I attract. But by the same token, it's not about needing loads of money and necessarily needing loads of success. It's literally your needs and preferences. And there's so many systems that are outdated in the world that repress people's abilities to speak out for themselves, because we live in such an institutionalized Western society. If you do live in Western society, you know, I'm assuming most of the people that have the internet live in Western society. Obviously, they have the internet in places that are more developing countries and stuff, but because Western society and because industrialized society is so industrialized and is so, you know, only really developed in the last recent times in comparison to the rest of history, it's very repressed. And I noticed this a long time ago. It doesn't really serve anyone in particular. As you know, you can be luckily born into a place that you're rich. You can be luckily born into a place where you receive more of a halo effect. You know, you can not be have things in society that might make you less desirable as a person, and I definitely think that those type of things 100% affect your quality of life, 100%. But at the same time, I am kind of just touched on that, but I definitely think that people, especially my experience at the moment, the people that are being shut down by people that have been used to a system for so long that has failed them, reproduce the same trauma. And it's a real problem, not only for the individual but for society at large, because when you have a society that perpetuates trauma and that perpetuates scapegoating, that perpetuates not looking properly into a full situation and assessing it fairly, and making accusations about people that are incorrect and not the full picture. It's a real problem for the consequences for that person and for any outcome that may come from that consequence. And people are very quick and easy to judge, and they're very unwilling to. I just think, you know, and I'm not trying to change the world, and I definitely don't think I can, but you know, but even if it just gives someone some validation of how unfortunately the world is, to a level, or how I've had the experience the world in the last week or so. But I just think you can only speak up for your preferences and your priorities, you know, and the priorities that are closest to you. And it's not for someone else to kind of do that for you, and to put your point across is more than half the battle, is 80% of it. And just to be aware of systems and people that may try and shut you down because of their own experiences, and to question it, to be honest, and to question the mindset behind it, you know, and not be quick to invalidate yourself and your own perspective and your own you know, overview of a situation, because I don't think anyone has the monopoly, and I'm not saying that this is the answer to the world's problems, but I definitely think it's a systemic issue that I feel that the world is facing at the moment, and it's not good, and it's difficult to experience sometimes, especially when you are the person that's experiencing the negative outcome, because it happens to us all, one way or another, and I think it can just be food for thought to people. Are so obviously ingrained in their own lives, but these things do come up, and I'm probably just going to title this video, if it goes up, Friday the 13th, bad luck, or something like that, because I do think that has something to do with it. But yeah, life isn't fair sometimes, and if this validates anyone, then I've done my job. So thanks for listening.